the meeting join, I think we're ready to roll. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. And we have a call to order at, are we still?
5:30.
5:30 exactly. And let us start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excuse me. We have a roll call, please. Clerk Kern.
Supervisor Bertrand,
I am here.
Treasurer Hubb,
Here.
Trustee Monet, Trustee Detmer,
You don't have to keep right on it.
Clerk Kern here.
Okay, all present and accounted for. Well, thank you for coming, for the township to do the township business. We'll start with, working on approving the agenda with additions and modifications. There are 3 additions that I'm going to propose. Number 3 would be a discussion and motion on a new ordinance compliance inspector position newspaper ad. Number 4 is opening discussion on the township's burn permit application process. And number 5, ongoing discussion on the GFL overcharge. Are there any other additions by anyone on the board? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion that we approve the agenda as modified. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion?
Just out of curiosity, are any of the additions things that we couldn't cover in a work session next month? Just for the sake of argument, time, whatever.
I'm not sure. I put things in here when it's, you know, like when we have meetings, if we can fill in some space and get some things done. Could it have waited? Yes.
I'm just, yeah. Okay.
But we're all here. The party started.
Hmm.
Okay, any other discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed the same?
No.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. Okay, on the agenda, the first thing is to finalize the ongoing FOIA request numbered 10/8/25, 6:58 p.m. Material supplied cost appeal. Now there's a mouthful. It being numbered FOIA Appeal 2025-2 from Terry Cleves. Ms. Cleves is appealing the charge for filling that FOIA request. She also disputes that the material supplied was complete per her request. The appeal hearing is over. The board listened to her concerns. Give each board member a chance to comment before calling for a vote on that appeal. Okay, I have something I'd like to say. The breakdown of the cost itemization has been supplied to Ms. Cleves and to the board. I was satisfied with it before and I still am. As far as the complaint that the material supplied was incomplete, when any consent agenda was passed by the board, it would have contained expenses, revenues, budgets, and board minutes for that month if those documents were made available at the date of the meeting. Everything else that we make effort to supply to the public by placing on that table over there, including that current meeting's agenda, is not part of the consent agenda group. Documents like resolutions, ordinances, amended minutes, notices, repeals of ordinances, etc., that were made available to the public on that table were addressed separately during the course of those meetings, with each having its own result, and every effort was made to record them in the minutes. But they were not part of nor considered passed in the consent agenda, nor should they have been listed on the webpage minutes as part of a consent agenda. Last week, in my gleeful haste to drive the final nail in the glue coffin, I incorrectly added a final glue dispersal document that was on that table to the stated consent agenda contents. And it was rightly pointed out that we could not pass that in the consent agenda. We had not discussed nor voted on it. So our own internal checks and balances do work. That's all I have for comment. Nothing else from the board? We'll go one more time.
I have something to say.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you for being here. Yeah, resolutions and motions can never be put in a consent agenda. So I have a few problems after receiving the detailed cost itemization. I don't quite understand 38 sheets of documents being sent to Ms. Cleaves for, we haven't even had 38 consent agendas. And if I'm correct in assuming that what she wanted was the contents within the consent agenda, I don't know where 38 came from. Secondly, for me, I find this form to be quite incomplete. From my copy as a board member, there's no date, there's no request number, and there's no date request received. There's no date that when Ms. Cleaves paid the money. So as a board member, I'm kind of sitting here going, okay. On top of that, so I've been doing some research. So 3 major things became apparent to me going through this and reviewing this on my own. And I'm going to take them one by one. Was the fee justified? Was the fee reasonable? And was the fee warranted or necessary? So I'm going to start with number 1 being it justified. And with all my research, there was a Supreme Court, State of Michigan Supreme Court ruling about FOIAs in 1983, Pennington versus Washington County Sheriff, that once a request is made under the Freedom of Information Act, the public body has a duty to either provide access to or release copies of the records sought unless they are exempt from disclosure. And in this case, they are not. So the justification for the FOIA would seem rightfully so. Next, I had to ask myself, was the fee reasonable? Not based on exactly what was charged, because I'm going to be getting to that, but just the fee in general. And to that, I'd like to point out, there was a Freedom of Information Act, Attorney General Opinion number 6923, page 224, dated October 23rd, 1996, that a public body may establish a fee in advance of providing a requested record if the fee is calculated based on actual costs as specified in the Freedom of Information Act. So therefore, a fee in general is allowable. So I don't really have a problem with that. Maybe not this dollar amount. The next big question for me was this fee warranted and necessary? So there are absolutely, after talking to MTA and doing further research, any guidelines or laws that require a consent agenda to be presented to the public under the Open Meetings Act. But for me, the situation is different because the consent agenda items are entered in the minutes. Per my research, and I think this is advisable for all of us to take heed to this, a consent agenda contains routine items which do not need further discussion, thus a consent agenda. The whole group of items is approved in one motion and one roll call vote. In the minutes, the actions passed in the consent agenda are recorded individually and in full. If discussion of an item is desired, it can and most likely should be removed from the consent agenda and discussed immediately after approval of the consent agenda or put it in sequence in your normal agenda. So now that consent agendas, if we use them, become part of the minutes. Well, then we run into the next phase for me in this situation, and that comes to the Freedom of Information Act itself. I'm sorry, I don't have a copy of this, but 15.269, Section 9, Paragraph 1. Each public body shall keep minutes of each meeting showing the date, time, place, members present, members absent, any decisions made at a meeting open to the public, and the purpose or purposes for which a closed session is held, if there is one. The minutes shall include all roll call votes taken at the meeting. The public body shall make any corrections in the meeting at the next meeting after the meeting to which the minutes refer. The public body shall make corrected minutes available at or before the next subsequent meeting after correction. The corrected minutes shall show both the original entry and the corrections. Number 2, paragraph 2. Minutes are public records open to public inspection, and a public body shall make the minutes available at the address designated on posted public notices pursuant to Section 4. And there's a little bit more to that, but paragraph 3, a public body shall make proposed minutes available for public inspection with 8 business days after the meeting to which the meeting minutes refer. And there are many other places that state, Michigan Municipal League, many organizations that talk about open meetings. So here's my problem with this whole thing. Once the consent agenda was approved, it has to become part of the official record in the minutes. Once they're in the minutes, they are subject to the Open Meetings Act. And the Open Meetings Act clearly states that you must disclose what you voted on, and that would include the items within the consent agenda. There have been many, many times sitting on this board, I have not fully understood what's in a consent agenda because we don't have an established policy for what should be included on a monthly basis in a consent agenda. So I asked myself, do I get charged $20? Because if I don't know what's in a consent agenda, and now it's part of the public record that to me should not be subject to a FOIA or a fee in that matter, because it's available in the minutes, which have to by law be set forth for public review within 8 days, then I can't expect a resident to pay $20 for something that should already be there. And at the end of the day, I think, like, for instance, we've had situations that are FOIA-able expenses because they are not open to public disclosure in minutes in those 8 days. But I can't get past the fact that if we talk about transparency and openness, at the end of the day, one can only conclude, and common sense would say that if the Freedom of Information Act says that minutes have to be available, and I'm kind of repeating myself here, but consent agendas become part of the minutes, and the law is very clear that you must include everything you voting on, which is in the consent agenda, then how can we ask a resident to pay for something that should already be there? So that's what I have to say about that this evening. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll say that I was only asked as the clerk to provide payables and the payroll, which I did. But it took several hours because I didn't know that was supposed to be filed in the minute book. I had them all in my, but in order to go through a month's folders, even taking November took a long time. So between me and Courtney, I think we probably spent 3.5 hours finding all the stuff, made copies, and I says, well, wait a minute. If they should have been in the minute book, we can't very well charge anybody for that. If it should have been there, it should have been a fairly small process
Yeah.
to flip that file open, take it out, make a copy, and
Mhm.
put it in a file. Which we figured that 3 hours or something like that was kind of ridiculous time. We lowered it to 1 hour. He's the only one besides myself that can get those figures very easily, and her fee is $20 an hour. So we charged that per increment, and that charged only $10.
Right.
$10. Then we had a little charge for examining the records, make sure they were the right ones that were asked for, and then we had copies. That's a total of $20.05. That's the
Right.
total. The $20 was the reason we came up with that.
And I understand your justification for the $20, but let's be very clear what statute says. The minutes must include all roll call votes taken at the meeting. We do a roll call for the consent agenda and the items included within that consent agenda. So how can we justifiably charge someone for information? Because that's a roll call vote per the law. It should already be included in the minutes.
Well, minutes were readily available.
But all the information from the consent agendas was not in there.
Okay, I don't know that. I can only tell you what I was asked to provide, and I provided. And I gave a pretty fair assessment of the time we spent and the very reduced charge.
Sure.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that the fee, as statute dictates, was approved and proclamated by our FOIA coordinator.
Just said I did.
Okay.
Any other comments from other board members? Okay. As with what I said earlier, every word in there is somewhat important. But per this appeal, the clerk's office supplied the consent agenda documents they had for the time frame you requested. The minutes are posted on the webpage. We are not obligated to create documents for FOIA requests. Items passed in any consent agendas are limited, and we certainly can charge for filling a FOIA request. You certainly can appeal that charge, did so, and you'll get an answer today. So the way the motions go, the board will vote and they can approve it or not, and the motions can then change if they are not approved. So the first one, I will make a motion that we deny the FOIA appeal for reimbursement numbered FOIA Appeal 2025-2 for the charge of $20 for materials supplied in answering FOIA requests 10/8/25/658. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Okay, we have a second. Stu. We have a second. Is there any further board discussion? Not.
I would just like to reiterate that I hope this board realizes that although you fulfilled a request, and I appreciate that, you charged accordingly. The Attorney General's opinions are on that. There are state laws about that. Open Meetings Act, this, but once again, how do we as a board get past the fact that the law says the minutes must contain everything we make a roll call about? And if what we put in our consent agenda is part of the roll call, why would that be a FOIA-able charge when it should be available anyway? If we had a policy in place to say every month this is going to be our consent agenda and we're going to say payroll is X amount, payables is X amount, we wouldn't be here right now.
Any other board comments? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a roll call, please, Clerk Kern?
Can you please restate, make sure we're done? Thank you.
Because there's a lot of words.
Yeah. I want to make sure I
The
get it.
motion is that we deny the FOIA appeal for reimbursement numbered FOIA Appeal 2025-2 for the charge of $20 for materials supplied in answering FOIA requests 10/8/25, 6:58 a.m. We had the second.
Yep.
So could we have the roll call, please, Clerk Curran?
Treasurer House,
Yes.
trustee Monet,
No.
trustee Detmer,
Yes.
clerk Kern, yes. Supervisor Bertrand.
Yes. Okay, the motion carries at 4-1. Could I get a timestamp, Mark, and we'll move on in the agenda here?
Can I ask a question here? I've got the Monet as a no, but Detmer I got as a no as well. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. 4-1 it is.
What you got there? Two on the agenda is to revisit the contract to remove oak wilt problem trees from township property. I had sent all of you something as far as information with no continued discussion. The board attempted to pass two different versions of oak wilt removal contract last week. Both votes ended in a stalemate. Further information shared was certainly needed. The short version of that is we did everything we could to mitigate oak wilt in the last 6 months. Excuse me. Fungicide, fertilizer, identification. And we are finally now in the right season to take action on the infected trees with the least likelihood of spreading the oak wilt to surrounding trees. Pretty certain chances of spreading are pushing 100% if we do not get them and dead oak wilt branches out of our parks before the snow is too deep. No township wants to spend the money on this. It's very expensive, but we will spend more if we don't. And watch it spread to more trees in the spring and cost even more money. So basically, I'm redoing the motion in its entirety. I will make a motion that we approve the contract for Martin Shilby Tree Care for the removal of 9 dead red oak wilt trees, 6 dropped and 3 dropped and completely removed in Park 27. Dead white oak wilt branches isolated by 3 trees in Phoenix Park. The dropping and complete removal of 2 dead red oak trees in Phoenix parking lot. And the dropping and removal of 2 dead red oak wilt trees in the township cemetery. Motion summarized as dead oak wilt tree removal in township parks and cemetery. Total cost $5,800. Work to be done as soon as possible. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Hops. Any board discussion?
Lots of board discussion. Number one, I read the explanation that you had for the stuff, and I agree with most of the things, but there's a paragraph in here that says, for the immediate work, board members wanted other bids to compare. None could be obtained to do just the naturally dead, not oak wilt branches and do it soon. Both other contractors' bids besides Shilby's wanted to cut and remove whole trees over. That's where the money is. Well, that's just not true. I brought in a bid from the one at Samoset, at that part, $1,000 less. And he didn't want to do the oak trees. He was just going to do the dead limbs. Then we changed to all the parks to get the dead limbs off because of the liability to kids playing on the playgrounds and many other things. It could be falling on a car. There could be many things. I just want to get this straight. We do have to get rid of these trees. I do understand that. And I do understand it. I just don't want to think, because we had a second bid and that other bid was for all the parks, about $2,000 or a little bit more difference from Chilby's down. And when we came to the third one to try to get a question, my guy at W&W pulled out. He didn't want any more balloonies. He didn't want anything else on the merry-go-round. And that's all I want to put forth to the board,
Okay.
that we did have some other things.
Yeah, I probably didn't word that as well as I could have. The one ended up being 23,000. If you remember, that was something that
Oh, that's some JC guy.
JC, but you and I
Yeah.
fell apart when we asked them to not. Uh, they wanted to cut more than I was expressing to them that we. So I know your guy eventually backed out, and my guy got mad. Said, unless we're coming in here and cutting all them trees down, I'll talk to you in October or something. So that what I was trying to explain there is that the other bids, the only person that I talked to who was willing to do what I wanted him to do, and I'm gonna say this. Anybody else in this room used to be a forester? I had 5 years with the DNR, 5 with US Forest. So if somebody knows their trees as well as I do and wants to dispute it with, I'm certainly willing to talk. But these guys are trying to tell me that they gotta cut these trees down, and I know they don't. They only need to take the dead branches. So it ended up with Shelby because he was willing to talk like, and that's what that did.
That's not my objection. My objection is to say there wasn't another bid. There was, but there was no third bid because W&W Walt pulled out.
Right, this bid,
He's got enough stuff, and I gave him the choice. I says, listen, you can go back, listen to what this board is saying at the supervisor's request, because he has some experience here. And he says, I'm done with this merry-go-round, and that's where it lay.
they make so much money, they can kind of do what they're.
Well, he had a lot of business at the time. I don't know if that's gonna be the situation now, but now we've come to the point. Yes, for the citizens of this township, that will need to be taken care of before it's. I definitely say that, but I wanted to get my 2 cents in about the other thing.
You're right, I didn't know, I didn't, have all that detail in there.
Okay.
Any other board discussion?
Not really a discussion as much as a comment. The last time this came around, I abstained because of the problems I've had legally with Shelby Tree Service in the past. After my due diligence and talking to more people, I will not be abstaining tonight because at the end of the day, that was many years ago, and this isn't about me. This is about what's right and or wrong for the township, and my duty lies there first before my own personal opinions and beliefs.
Any other comments? Okay, so I am not gonna read all those details that are somewhat hidden in there. For the motion summarized, as the dead oak wilt tree removal from township parks and cemetery, total cost at $5,800. Work to be done as soon as possible. I'm sorry, let me back up. Did we have any other discussion? Yeah, okay. State the motion as dead oak wilt tree removal from township parks and cemetery, total cost $5,800, work to be done as soon as possible. Could we have a roll call on that, please, clerk?
Trustee Monet,
No.
trustee Detmer,
Yes.
clerk Pern, yes. Supervisor Bertrand,
Yes.
treasurer Hop.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries at 4. Next thing on the agenda is a discussion and a motion on a new ordinance compliance inspector position newspaper ad. We as a board have been bantering this around, hiring of someone to specifically deal with ordinance complaints. Excuse me again, but also to be the point person in helping residents, computer filing, tracking, assistance with short-term rentals and septic ordinance expectations matching the Central Michigan District Health Department data and maps. I believe I have a feeling for what this person may have to have in their skills toolbox, but I'm also way past. Just every time we have talked about it, it kind of breaks into a general disagreement. So I created a motion, and I'm just going to make it, and we'll see what happens. I'm gonna make a motion that we put a new ad in the public notice section of the Old Lake Resort for 2 weeks, stating this for the applicants. And you all, I'm sorry, you should have a copy right in front of you. What this said, looks like that. It would be in the 2 pieces of paper that I had put in front of you before you sat down.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, let's do it like that. Want to join a great team in a great township? Lyon Township is looking to hire an ordinance compliance inspector. This person must be able to first and foremost look to offer assistance to our residents, perform field work for signed ordinance violation complaints, and start and maintain an organized method of record keeping and filing of inspections for our upcoming short-term rental and septic ordinances. This person must have capable negotiating, mediating skills and experience in dealing with difficult persons and positive action plans. They will have their own discretion as to how signed ordinance complaints are handled and report to the township board monthly. Send your resume application to Paul Bertrand, Lyon Township Supervisor. Interviews will be scheduled and pay based on skill level and experience. There may have to be an addition on the bottom about no discrimination clause. That is the motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, what's the board discussion on it?
What was wrong with the original one?
Well, in the section of the paper that it was in, it wasn't in the public notice. I'm not sure it got noticed much.
It was also this big.
Yeah, it wasn't real big.
It was very small.
This is more of a dressed up flowery version of it, but it also clearly states signed complaints.
Are we going to, I remember speaking with Bruce that he was gonna throw up his hat in. Are we interviewing him? Are we talking to him? Are we, or just? Not
If he
even-
wants to apply, he can apply. I actually got a, after the period had ended, I got a notice from somebody who was interested. So I'll let him know that there's,
Yeah.
you know, this is there. And then I got one from, well, I shouldn't say the name, for the zoning administrator.
Hmm.
Turned out things didn't go that way.
Yeah,
So this is a little bit more dressed up, looking to attract more attention, get a bigger pool of candidates, and also was a little bit more specific about what, in my opinion, this person is gonna have to do.
See, that's kind of an issue, like. Again, you mentioned what you want.
That's why it's in front of you right now. If you don't want to do this, but no,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Again, though, there was no discussion about, and just here it is. I mean,
that's exactly correct. Because if it's going to be something where we hire another Gestapo guy to run around the township, I'm not interested in any. This is my best shot to try and encompass what this job might be going forward. And yes, I did write it up and I put it on this agenda to put it up for a vote because I'm tired of half talking about it month after month.
I'm just gonna say for the record, because I might not get a chance, and then I have a comment about this as well, that in the future, if we have special meetings, I would appreciate a notification, because I found out from a resident about tonight. That being said, Treasurer Hobbs knows that I have sent him at least once now, maybe even twice. There's a resolution that we must abide by of what our ordinance officer can and cannot do that was made many, many years ago. And I don't know why this is such an issue, and we're not looking to that to guide this position as opposed to rewriting, reinventing the wheel here about this position. It's already in writing what they have established. And until such a time that we repeal that resolution, we're bound by that. So I don't understand why we never look to the past to help guide us moving forward.
The ordinance officer position is there. If we do this, we would have to alter it, repeal it. This is actually a different title and a different job.
That's news to me.
Well, that's why I sent it to you today.
Yeah,
When you did get notification of this meeting, emails,
No, I didn't.
see, this is,
It did not.
you know, it kind of gets down to where I end up emailing them to different people, different addresses.
Well,
I end up-
that's BC
You
three.
know, but I mean, it's kind of like,
I'm just saying for the record. I just want to
okay,
get notified.
I'm sorry that that happened, but
Well,
I'm saying willful.
I'm
not-
not saying it is. God only knows I don't get to make many special meetings, so cheers.
Yeah, actually, we were involved in a conversation about 5:30.
Yeah, I saved it. All I
Yeah,
said was
yeah.
5:30 works and that's all.
Then after that, I sent an email to everybody.
Yeah, I just,
I don't know.
that's all right.
So this is a whole new made up, title or something?
This is a different title for a job that includes, in our previous discussions, which were more like disagreements. It was, why would we hire somebody to do filing? Why are we hiring somebody to do paperwork? I'm telling you, the job, when we get rolling with a short-term rental and a septic inspection or a septic ordinance, it will be primarily paper. They will have to chase through what we do, through Central Michigan District Health Department maps, figure out who's on record, who's not, generate the mailing that we would have to do. It's all about that. It is not about driving around the township, being on patrol.
No, it's about following up on complaints.
Well,
People
sign
complain.
complaints and a whole lot of the other, where are we going with all this stuff?
So the name, the title of ordinance officer will be basically repealed. And then it's going to be called an ordinance compliance inspector. And then if that's the case, what are we waiting for? Why don't we find the resolution? Well, I know where it's on my phone. That was drafted and passed in the past. Get it off the books now, the next meeting. Why have it there if we're not gonna even utilize or even look at it to dictate moving forward?
You can certainly bring it up for the agenda on the next meeting. This is what it is,
Yeah.
right? And again, in order to move forward, gotta do something. If it's not gonna be this, okay. But I see this as how that job is gonna pan. And I would also add, the right person, you're gonna have to pay them accordingly. This is not a knucklehead job.
This is all part of the discussion, and I do agree that there will be paperwork involved. But the number one issue is for a signed complaint that comes in, it gets addressed. And he does what he has to do. I love
see.
the thing, his own discretion how to sign this stuff, that part of it's good. That part of it's good. Changing the name of the position, I don't know if that's 100% legal. I don't know if it is, and I know that's part of the motion.
And to create it, like I said, I'm throwing it out there. I see this and I'm saying it right there. This job is to help the people. I went to some blight and dangerous building meetings last week. And like, my God. You might as well bring the police department over here and turn them loose on everything under the sun. They're just trying to make money. I didn't want any part of that. I don't think the residents deserve it. I just think it's a bad way to do business.
I'd like to see the ordinance officer title stay where it is. This isn't a bad, ad, and person must be capable of negotiating, mediating skills, experienced in dealing with difficult persons and positive actions. They will have their own discretions on how signed ordinance complaints are handled for the township month and will report to the township monthly. It's basic cop stuff. That's what cops have been doing forever. And right there, that's just basic cop stuff. And if I ever get pulled over by a cop, and I look in my rearview mirror and it's a kid that looks like he just got out of I know what it's a kid like he just got out of high school. You kind of go, oh no. And it's looks like he's been around a while, but then some experience and has some experience in the field and stuff like that. And there's somebody that you can talk to. That's a good thing. So really, mediation skills, handling difficult people, that's basic cop stuff, that's basic ordinance officer stuff. So I really don't see too much wrong with this ad. Well, my only opinion would stay with ordinance officer.
I thought you were gonna say get pulled over by somebody who on that comment said. Ordinance compliance inspector.
No.
I'm using that. I'm not married to that. I just wanna get, this is a help the township residents thing.
That's what cops do too.
Yeah, you're right. I should not negate the fact that they're, certainly here. I would like to see it either be furthered along or not. And if it gets further along, then we can keep talking.
Well, would you be interested in altering that language and make it back to ordinance officer that we had to begin with? I'm pretty pleased with this, except for the part, send your resume application to Paul Bertrand. That's fine. Is Paul Bertrand gonna share that with us before we do the interview?
If we get a pull.
You'll have to.
Well, the thing is, in the last one, we said interviews will be at this meeting, such and such a date.
Mhm.
What we really need to do is get a pool and then we can notify.
If we have nobody, if we have a pool of one, we still gotta interview him.
Yeah.
It's, well. if-
No, I was thinking about send them to the township, to you or the clerk, and then if they send them here, we'll get them.
Okay,
I just want to say, just a record that, yeah, I mean, this is all fine and well to bring something, 'cause it's supposed to be for the good of the township, but it doesn't do any good for a township when you have X amount of ordinances in place and they all are not being enforced or looked at.
are they being investigated too? Cause if they are investigated, then it's that guy's discretion whether or not.
Absolutely.
Get it out.
Well, that should be in any
I
situation.
can give you-
Yeah.
They're being-
Yeah.
Decide to ignore the ordinances.
Oh, no, there has been complaints thus far in the community that there have been things.
It's all hearsay crap.
No, it's not. There's people that have come and talked to him about ordinances that aren't being addressed.
That's because of the price of this, and this is.
Misunderstood. what
Oh,
you said.
yeah. No.
I said it's about-
No.
Okay.
The base of this is the discussion that we had previous. Where the attorney laid out, we don't necessarily have to act on things, and that's where we somewhat landed to signed complaints. Not just, somebody complaining. I'm gonna tell you, meeting I went to last week. I sat there through the guy's hearing. And, this was on a dangerous building. The state inspector gave him 6 months to fix it. When the whole thing was over and they left, I'm looking at Robert, state inspector, a couple other people. I said, I got a couple questions. Go ahead. I said, where'd this complaint come from? And they all kind of looked at each other. And I said, I deal with a lot of complaints where neighbors hate neighbors. So we're dealing with signed complaints. Do you have a signed complaint? And immediately, well, it could have come from anywhere. Could have come from somebody driving by. Could have come, and later on, I found out it was a couple people driving around taking pictures. And they were just ruining it. I'm 100% against it.
I'm not saying I'm for that. That's much different than somebody actually coming in and going, hey, my neighbor's violating ordinance number, 26, section B or whatever, and they sign a complaint. Every single one of those is a duty and a service to this community should be investigated. Every last.
I have complaints. I can't even tell it. Well, my message machine no longer works. It hits 100 and it can't go higher.
Yeah.
People who call and complain, I say, fill the paperwork out. People who email me, I say, fill the paperwork out. 9 out of 10, never had to say one. So
Well,
people
I mean,
that do fill it
yeah.
out.
Sure.
Generally, if the answer is, we are not gonna take action on this because it's one of those neighborly disputes or something,
Hmm.
you're correct. I'm in the middle of all that and I shouldn't. We need to get somebody.
Right.
And
Just want to make sure we understand that, and you don't want this just to be, a witch hunt, but that an ordinance officer or an ordinance compliance inspector doesn't do the residents any good if they just sit behind a computer, in my opinion.
that's where the rub is.
I'm in agreement with that. And no signed complaints, no signed ordinance complaints gonna be ignored.
Yeah,
Please.
absolutely should.
Anything to do with
Yeah.
that.
To the lawyer's opinion about we don't have to do something about everything. We don't accept that opinion.
No, we don't, but
No,
what his
we
written
don't.
is, there's probably 1,000 violations in this township if you wanted to go chase them down.
No.
What he was saying was the courts are well aware that you cannot put the time, money and effort into chasing all this stuff down. So you have to have some latitude and some discretion.
Mhm.
And as Steve had said, that's the same for police. You have to have some discretion. Nobody's saying ignore blatant things. But I can give you an example of, the pictures that they took for Holton Lake. None of them showed the neighborhood. So they have a picture of something with a building that's missing a door. Well, we're gonna knock your building down and we're gonna put it on your taxes. Guy says, well, I'll put a door on, okay. But none of them show the neighborhood. Our attorney said, that's something you might want to consider. If this guy has a shed with a missing door and he's a quarter mile back in the woods, you might not be that concerned about that. If it's right on the corner next to the park where kids can get in there, you might want to be concerned about that. That's the discretion that he was trying to say we can use. I'm not saying you discount them all.
Mhm.
It was a matter of discretion to pick and choose.
Even that's part of the language, that.
Right.
Yeah.
And the courts, he says the courts are well aware.
And here's where I see a problem with it. If that shed in the woods is considered an R1 residential and the house on the corner near a park is considered R1 residential, now you're cherry picking the people you want to pick on and the people you don't. Setting a precedent if they go to court that, wait a second, and Roscommon County, by the way, has been in trouble before for arbitrarily pursuing certain things and not pursuing others. So I think you now, if it's a, ag district, or something like that, that kind of changes the game for me. But at the end of the day, I don't think we should cherry pick people within our own community and in our districts and say, well, I'm going to pick on you, but I'm not going to say anything to you.
And there's where this further from the attorney,
Mhm.
he has a discretion, whoever has a discretion. They report to the board. Then if that stuff was like stacking up
Mhm.
and we don't like what they're doing, we fire them. That's, that was in
Or correct the action.
or, well, yeah,
There you go. Yep.
The one other thing about that complaint, Robert listed 5 different, well, the roof could cave in. Someone could cut themselves where the door is missing.
Well, if you're on someone else's roof, you're trespassing.
Okay, but no, he's talking about, what it was the list of things
Yeah.
that could go wrong. Therefore, you need to do something about this. We're knocking the damn thing down.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Okay.
Yeah.
The old man who's missing a leg, the guy says, what do you intend to do? He says, I intend to fix it, but I got $23,000 in my leg first. But then he says, so all those things you listed, how does that compare to my neighbor's trampoline where the kid went through the springs because they don't have a cover on it, tore his arm up and they had to take him to the hospital? How does that compare to the 4-wheelers who were running around ignoring the signs and banged into each other on front of my property? And he listed 5 things that actually happened compared to all of these, this could.
Yeah. I don't like witch hunts. That's not right.
No, and that's, God save us from what's going on in Holton Lake. Please.
Now, I will say as an example, on my street, and this came up with the last board, and it rightfully so. When you have a house that the family's been disputing for years, and there is half of a wall and back missing, there's 5 holes in the roofs, there's coons, there's mice, there's anything, and dead deer carcasses just sitting on the property rotting that the residents are not allowed to touch, as I was told by the DNR in the county. They have to take care of it, and we just got sick of it. They were forced. That's when it's completely justified. That's not a witch hunt. That's a do or die for me.
Yeah, I just those cases that need to be.
Yes.
Again, I'm just trying to move. Actually, we have talked more tonight right now than we have probably all year.
No, and that's- You need the talking.
Other than, I would change the title back to ordinance officer. I'm good with this, other than that.
Mhm. Would you entertain that, Supervisor Bertrand?
I wanted to pass it so that we can work on it, kind of. It's gonna take, here's the part that doesn't sound real good. It's probably gonna take one more meeting to finalize this thing. But we're going in the right direction. Well, we're going in a direction. Let's change. So I would like to pass it as a motion that this is a potential ad.
A potential. There's no such
Well, I mean,
motion for a potential ad.
yeah, I'm trying to avoid, if we pass this language exactly as it is. Actually, I'm okay with it if you guys are, and just change the name to ordinance officer.
That's what I suggested twice now.
That's what I suggested as well. Will you consider that a amendment?
You're actually going farther than I thought you would. Well, sure, I can do that.
Okay,
That will open the door going forward that we have to look at the ordinance officer.
and we have a little time now to get this ad done, because somebody came in, tried to put an ad in today. The digital portion is already up. Tomorrow comes the picture. So we got a few days to work on this if you want, and then we'll take care of it, but I think so.
I'm good with that.
It's a good discussion.
Anything else? Okay, for the sake of, getting it right, want to join I'm gonna make a motion that this be an ad we put in the paper. Want to join a great team in a great township? Lyon Township is looking to hire an ordinance officer. This person must be able to first and foremost look to offer assistance to our residents, perform field work for signed ordinance violation complaints, and start and maintain an organized method of record keeping and filing of inspections for our upcoming short-term rental and septic ordinances. This person must have capable negotiating, mediating skills and experience in dealing with difficult persons and positive action plans. They will have their own discretion as to how signed ordinance complaints are handled and report to the township board monthly. Send your resume application to Paul Bertrand, Lyon Township Supervisors. Interviews will be scheduled and paid based on skill level and experience. Do we have a second?
We have
And one with Kern. Any other discussion from the board?
So, just to be clear, if it's not signed, we're not following up on it?
That's what this says.
That's what I'm
Okay.
going, I want that. I want it to be signed.
Yeah, so. I think if we're done talking, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Trustee Detmer,
Yes,
Clerk Pern, yes. Supervisor Bertrand,
Yes.
Treasurer Huff,
No.
Trustee Monet,
Without a complete size of the ad and price, no.
Okay, the motion carries 3-2. It's not real bad. All right, number 4, I'm sorry, can I get a timestamp so I can jockey myself? Okay, the agenda item is to, at an opening discussion on the township's burn permit application process. I put this in here because, right now, over a course of a couple of years, it has progressed to where we have a burn permit application process where they have to call the township or come in order to get a burn permit. And since then, the hours that we are open have been reduced. And I have dealt with a couple of people where if you are any of you have, when you do a burn permit, you call the DNR, you can leave your name and your number and you let them know. And then you can check on their countywide whether you can burn or not. Our policy says, call us for an application. We're not open. I would like to consider that we change to an automated system where if you're calling for a burn permit, that you are segmented off somewhere. Where if you meet if the criteria is met for the county by the DNR, that it could suffice that them leaving their name and their number is the actual permit, similar to what happens in the DNR. But I think it's really wrong that we advertise, if you want one, call us, and can't call us. There is an inclusion in there about, please try and do it well enough ahead of time. I get it, but when you look at all the other townships, Garish has no burning at all unless there's snow on the ground and you probably have to jump through 6 hoops. Denton has something. We have ours, everybody else's, if it's okay on the DNR site, you're fine. And then there's a time, so during early fall, it said only after 6 if it was allowed. Right now, it says all day. You know, so I'm just throwing this out there that I think we do a disservice to say, call us for this thing. And ain't nobody home when you call.
Seems to me we should just change it to say, if we want a burn permit, call the DNR up, and if the DNR gives you a burn permit.
That is how not almost, that is how the other townships, other than the 3, operate. But they're a lot small.
Makes sense to me.
Could be that, could be leave a message on a machine here if you're okay with the DNR.
What if there's red flag burn laws out or something like that where you know. I've seen people burning with winds blowing and rain or not should be burning anything, so they call the DNR says there's a red flag burn, then you can't burn, then you can't burn.
Yeah, then they're obviously in the, out of compliance. Currently, in order to burn leaves, you have to have a special burn permit to burn leaves, open. And I know I made a mistake in the first newsletter. I said, you cannot burn. Since then, I said, you can burn. And that's where we're at right now. Sure, you can burn, call us and get a permit.
So that's all we're doing is discussing traffic.
Yeah, I just wanted to think about it a little bit.
And I think if we had those people, we get no phone calls, at least that I know of, that don't get returned almost immediately. As soon as we get them, we call them back. Listen, these are our hours. If you got the permission from the DNR, you talk to them already, come in, sign up, we're open these hours, and it's not a big deal to get your permit.
It is if you come in, if you're here on Saturday, kind of burn.
We'll give them the hour. That's what I'm saying. On the callback, we'll tell them when they can come in.
That's one option.
When I was a kid up here, it was open burn. You never needed a permit. People, it was kind of like a rites of passage that everyone would put their leaves on the edge of the dirt roads and grab a beer, light the fires, and they'd smolder for days and days and days. And those days have long since been gone because, for me, I don't like the idea that if it's almost like that again, that I can't, I love burning leaves, but I can't do it anymore and I don't want to do it. I don't want to be smoked out. That means every person around me, if the DNR said, okay, it could burn and smolder 24 hours a day, or so, every lot around me. And then let's say if it was a decent day, I want to crack my windows open. I have animals I take care of, anything. I'm a smoker and I shouldn't be smoking, but I don't even smoke in front of them. If anybody smokes in front of my pets, they're going to get back slapped.
What about allergies?
So allergies, I don't, so, and then we would have to repeal the current burn ordinance.
Yeah.
We would have to come up with something else. We would have to, yep, and me being a legal freak, if something's not signed, as Judge Judy said once, if it ain't in writing, it doesn't exist. Without a signature on it,
And one
So-
thing is that current one we have says you can get the burn permit to burn all these things, but it also says that it doesn't say a township board member, it infers that the township board has to approve it, but also somewhat infers that a board member could. And that's for bigger things, like you're gonna burn something. But it also says you cannot burn things if you create, I'm trying to think of the language, if it creates a nuisance. And I right away, I'm thinking of you, define that.
Yep.
So when you say the smoke bugs me,
yep, and then where's the ordinance officer for that?
and initially, I want to put it out there unless anybody else says anything. That I think what we have currently puts people at a bit of a disadvantage because we're not open, we used to be open till 4.
Let me play this backwards a little bit. Has anyone called and complained and said I couldn't get a burn permit because you weren't there? And if no one's complained, then why create a problem that doesn't exist? Change anything.
I've had 2 people complain that they wanted to get one and couldn't. So this is like Monday, Tuesday after the weekend kind of stuff.
So
Did
when
they
you,
call?
I would say then when
They
they,
call, these are the calls that I get on my phone.
okay, so those same people, that if you spoke to them, could have said, can I get one now for when I'm up north next weekend?
It's only good for 3 days when. Like Timothy says, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Don't change it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Sounds like you could just for a week.
Hey, how about this?
So
We have,
we-
you have so much techie stuff going on around here now. Make online signatures available so a board member can sign off on their permit. If they're in Timbuktu, they can come up here and they're good to go.
Okay, I like some of what I'm, I mean, like you said, tweaking it probably ain't gonna hurt.
You know, I went back a number of years and I found many cases that it didn't go to the board, it was signed by a board member. And that's
Mm.
probably all you need. Well,
It is.
okay.
But if you,
You don't need to sit at a board meeting. I earn my leaves.
if you look at the word, it's technically should be signed by the ordinance office,
Yeah,
Mhm.
but they're not always here.
no.
So I think it gravitated to
Okay.
where, I'm here, I'll sign it. Anyway, okay, I'm glad we're at least talking, maybe going somewhere.
Good.
Last one, number 5, this is an ongoing discussion about the GFL overcharging. The attorney sent me a list of stuff and I tried to send it to everybody. Did you,
I didn't get that.
short summary. We need to get our hands on previous contracts. Going back 2 boards at least and see if in any of those contracts, it was our responsibility to give them the lists of the residents that they're supposed to be served. It's one. The other one is that we should, if we were involved in conversations with GFL, we need to say something. If they ever said to us in the process of getting a new contract since we got here, you guys give me the list, I got nothing to do with it. We need to know that. Anything that we have had a conversation with them is what he would like to look at before making a determination. He's saying if we're talking 90,000, he agrees if you go for big, you could probably end up with something. But if in any of that, we have already absolved ourselves of that monitoring, then we're toast.
Yep. Yep.
So I know I said something to you, I believe, about trying to find those old contracts.
Yeah,
Um,
and I had no.
I know Kevin has had a lot of conversations with him, but word of mouth is, I don't even know how.
We need something in writing, and I've looked and I haven't found them yet, but I continue. There's other things to do in a day sometimes.
I'm gonna bring it up because, we were there, we talked about it, this is what he wanted, and, if we don't come up with something, then we're not there.
Okay,
Why doesn't the, real quick, why wouldn't the attorney say, make them prove that they can charge us for 1,800 extra homes? As opposed to us having to hunt things down. Why shouldn't they have to be able to?
That's an excellent question. What did that guy say?
I mean-
About you're smart enough to figure that out. They got the law degree.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a fair
If
question.
they had something that absolved them, we'd know about, it, right?
From day one, like I've said
Yeah.
a million times.
Yeah.
GFL said the list came from you, that's what we charged you. Nobody bothered to look it up or even go through it to see if it was accurate. They just kept going from what the board had told them, original
So do we have that list? Do you have it?
list of what?
That's if it came, we need to know which board
Yeah,
it came.
They said they have the list
it
and
was at least 2 boards a day.
Yes.
And it was maybe 8 or 9 years, and more than that, it was another company.
Where-
oh, waste management.
They just inherited that contract from,
But, the contract may have said we were responsible.
Maybe it did.
so that's the number came
Yeah.
from the original board,
Sure.
or from the original contract back 8 years or 9 years ago, whatever it is.
Well, as we were before,
5 years.
if we can get some money out of these people, great, because it ain't our money, it's our taxpayers,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's what we're
Right.
supposed to be fighting.
Okay,
So how many is it people? So the township is paying for 1,800 people extra? No, what is it? A couple hundred?
80.
80, 1,800, 80.
Times something times.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's where the 90 grand comes in.
Actually, more than that, I don't know.
Basically, he was saying, if you can't prove that they were responsible in some way,
Yeah.
Wait. Okay, I need to clarify something then. I'm gonna put my legal cap on here. Okay. So I understand what the attorney's saying and everything else. So if there's 80 people that have been overcharged or added to the bill.
Phantom charges,
Long-term charges, okay.
Yeah.
Are we still paying that 80?
not anymore.
When did that stop?
2 months ago, when we sat down with them and said, okay, here's our list of 2320.
Okay,
Who pay the trash bill.
yeah.
Show me where the other 80 are that you're charging us the 2,400. They said, we can't. This is the list you guys gave us originally back.
Well, that's just all speculation and hearsay then. The attorney to me should jump all over that, that if you're saying that until there was an order, not even by an attorney, on request to stop overcharging those 80 people, then if they say, well, this was just, well, guess what? I can say that there were 500 if I worked for the company. That's just all spec.
And we looped back around to him saying, get your hands on the contract.
Yeah, well,
What they said.
Okay, well, we'll do some more look.
I'd be bringing them
Yeah.
under oath. That's me.
Okay. That's not gonna wait to get deposed.
Absolutely, it's a yes.
It's not our money. It's not ours to say what
Yeah.
they.
There has to be something on record somewhere that would just not make it.
So we're gonna keep looking. Okay.
Yeah, there has to
All
be.
right, so.
All right.
That brings us to announcements. The only thing that I have is the Parks and Rec survey is out there. Been getting a lot of hits on it already, and the tax mailing went out today, this week.
No, goes out this week.
December 1,
Up in envelopes already, right?
December 1.
The tax.
Tax-
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So that would mean everybody's gonna get notification of it on that. So it's starting out good, starting out better than I thought it would for not having the mailing of it. Getting a lot of hits on it, and that will all actually be winnowed down into the actual grant request to prove that the people want these things. Okay, no other announcements. We're down to public comment. Anybody like to come up and say something?
Yeah.
Is that, push that button?
Yep.
Should be, okay, you're looking good.
I just got a couple suggestions. You're talking about the burn permits. What about fire department? Because that's why we've always done it before. So if the fire got out of control, the fire chiefs knew about it and they were aware right where to go. It just kind of limited. So maybe if they're going to be on standby at the hall anyhow, could they maybe take these calls and, you know, sign the permits? Because I know in the past JC has signed them and Bill used to sign them. Just a thought. And another suggestion, I know you guys already passed it, but like you're talking about putting in the ordinance officer in the paper. Sometimes you could simplify that a little bit and say you can get the job requirements at the office and it would have saved a lot of money in that ad. You know, just put the specifics in there, but just a suggestion. And as far as the FOIA for Terry Cleaves, the minutes were not on, so they were not available to her, just my opinion, because I've looked and there were several months that they were missing, like one was in July, one was in June, and how can you go back and look at that if it's not available? But that's all I got to say.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Anybody else got something they want to say? Come on up.
Karen Traps, Lyon Township. Regarding the ordinance officer position, the ability for them to have a discretion, I think, should be limited based on what the ordinances say already. We can't be just choosing which part of the ordinances we want to deal with. And as far as the neighbors hating neighbors things, your neighbor is probably the person you see the most about. And if there's something wrong there, you're the one that's going to see it. And just because it's a neighbor doesn't mean it should automatically be dismissed as a neighbor hate neighbor or a property dispute. That's not the case. Each individual signed complaint should be taken and evaluated without that prejudice involved.
You're correct. I probably did not state that correctly. I have neighbor, a lot of neighbor against neighbor, and I'd say, sign it. I'm not signing it.
Well, if it's signed, it should still be treated as a valid complaint. And
Yeah.
It's a complaint, a formal complaint. I don't think this, the least still should follow up. The bare minimum.
yes, and to not take action on it because it's a neighbor, I think is an invalid response.
Real quick, what do you think of this? This just dawned on me, and I thought it once before.
With comments, sir.
I know, but I'm gonna ask her a question,
Fine.
if I may.
No.
Is that, what would you feel about as a resident at that, because I know some people have a problem with signing things because they're like, oh, I don't want my name out there, but I think if people could understand too, that if we could, I mean, anonymity, that you can come to us and sign a complaint, but we're not gonna go to the neighbor and say, your neighbor, blah, 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 and you can't do that anyway,
I'm sorry, I need to say that.
so.
They never get the name.
No, I know that,
The only way they're gonna get the name is if it ends up in court. Goes
It's not
FOIA, right, FOIA.
not true. FOIA requests will get
Yeah.
the name.
right. Funny, don't make sense to my house.
Oh, no, that doesn't, yeah,
Their name. Like I said, there's many instances where this and this, okay, fill this out and sign it, but they won't see your name. So right away, I got one person's word on something that I have no verifiable proof of, and you're not gonna stand behind what you say.
Still doesn't mean they couldn't follow up.
yeah, I would like to,
I'm not saying.
I'd like to get a legal opinion on that to see if it could be considered an exemption for privacy purposes. You never know, but that would be acceptable, right? If you can keep it anonymous, even through a FOIA, I think more people might sign them, you never know.
Hey,
Second.
Excellent point.
anybody else? Go ahead. I'm a little concerned about the approach to compliance.
We know who you are, but could it?
Bill Robinson, thank you. The problem I have with it is if you have a program that's entirely based on compliance by complaint, and you don't invest anything in public education, then you almost are setting yourself up for these conflicts in neighborhoods. People on this board, they drive all over this township every day almost. They see stuff that they know is not compliant. Question is, what do you do about it? Do you just drive by and just wait for somebody else to complain? Or do you go ahead and direct this problem to a compliance officer, assuming that we have one? But the problem with compliance by complaint is that there's no preventative aspect to it. The people need to understand what the ordinances are. And I don't see much invested in educating the public about it. Sure, they're on the website, but we have a sign, for example, in front of the fire department, and when there's a high fire danger, they put a no burning, high fire danger. But there's a lot of missed opportunities to educate people about the ordinances. And I think an electronic sign is a big waste of time and money if all it does is periodically say happy birthday to somebody or, some other, maybe nice message, but not anything that really solves problems. So I would recommend educating the constituents about what the ordinances are and set an example as a township for what it is. For example, going back to the last administration, they very often burned the big brick over in the compost. And they didn't stay there. You go there first thing in the morning and the gate opens up, there's a big smoldering pile there. Do they have any firefighting equipment like they're required to put the fire out if it spreads? Do they have anybody monitoring the fire? No. That's a township operation. We've got a lot of dumb information from some people that work at that site. I've been told before that, well, we don't have any room for the leaves because we're all full up. We can't take any more leaves. This happened last year, or year before. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do with the leaves? Well, go out someplace and dump it on somebody's property. I mean, this kind of idiot stuff is something that we need to do a little bit better job at, because if we're educating people in the wrong way, then I'm not sure what we're accomplishing except looking like we're bubbling along. And that problem goes back a little while, but it concerns me that we're even considering burning that big brush pile again. We're not, well, I know it would be up as an option. Anyway, so I think education is part of this compliance thing that I'd like to see a little bit more energy go into. As far as the fun stuff and all the discussions we've had about how much money and how much time, that the clerk's staff has had to devote to this, and whether they're getting a break by cutting back and not charging them for all the time that they perceived. I'll just remind everybody that your time is paid for by people in the audience and out in the residence here. See, I think if the default response to answer for information is file a FOIA, I think that's probably a useful thing in some ways. But on the other hand, it also shows kind of like a resistance to providing information that should be available. And if it's not available and it should be available, then we ought to reevaluate procedures, whether they're in these consent agendas or whatever other information, that you might need to do it correctly, so it's easier to tap the information and give it to people. So I think we also need to value the time of the decisions. Now, I don't know how many special meetings we've had. There've been a lot of them. I would bet, without even going back and trying to attempt to tally that this last year we've had more special meetings on the average per month than probably any administration going back for how long. So the question becomes, well, why is that the case? Because we have so many new problems, because we're different, because we're doing things differently. I don't know, you guys might, have some of the answers to that. But it costs money to have meetings. Did anybody even put a dollar figure on what it costs to have a special meeting? And would we have special meetings if there was one homework done in advance of the meetings on the part of the 5 people sitting on the board? There are some people that make it pretty clear that they didn't even know something was on the agenda, or they didn't have the information that they needed to be able to deliberate on at the meeting. Now, if that's the case, then either the communication between the board members is not a problem, or it could be that someone isn't even looking at the agenda ahead of time to say, oh, guess what? We're going to have a appeal hearing for a FOIA thing on the agenda. Maybe I should find out about that before I come to the meeting, unprepared to even discuss it or understand the background of it. So I'm trying to encourage people to do a little bit more, a little bit more consideration for the time of the people who would like to attend these meetings. And nobody's trying to beat you guys up, but working together better as a team would make it a lot easier for people to understand what's going on. Probably would be more economical. And so I'm recommending that maybe you take a second look about how you communicate and prepare for meetings in the first place. That's all I've got to say. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Well, I've got a question for you, Phil. And don't take this the wrong way by any means. What suggestions would you give us to educate the residents on the ordinances? Like, hold a class. I mean, I'm looking for different things.
Well, part of the challenge here is the fact that the seasonality of the population as it's here. So the question is, when one of the best times to do this. I think probably it needs to be a year-round thing, but probably more emphasis on when there's actually people here and available to come. Now, maybe people don't want to do that in their summer vacation. I don't know, but
I mean, I just feel mailing things out, in my opinion, is a waste of time and money.
I think though, that, you know,
It's trash. I mean, I'm looking for other,
we're supposed to get back to what's going on here. Do they want the video? And try to figure it out from there. Yeah, I mean, send it in the minute, yeah, figure things out, you know, this video. Is it,
change personal responsibility. For people, there is, I mean, it's not, you know, I look at it this way as. We're not babysitters, okay?
right,
We're not. I mean, well, I was a resident before I was on the board. And if I didn't know something, I had to figure it, look it up.
yeah.
That's all. I'm just looking for other.
I spent 20 years in the compliance business, okay?
Way over time.
And, the has to do with animal welfare, animal rights, for proper procedures for doing research on animals. But we spent a lot of time working with people, coaching people, providing information, sending out bulletins and notices. And we had the advantage of having people's email addresses. I'm surely you all must have people's email addresses. You wrap it up, but why don't you send us an email with the stuff you used to do? Maybe some of what you used to do would be something.
A lot of people, I've asked a lot of people, "Oh, I don't want to give my email."
Well, you get them from us, Susie, yeah. That's there.
If people- but, you can do- I like
Ordinance. Like employee of the week.
Very soon we're gonna hear you, something like that.
Yeah.
put on there,
No, I,
something like that.
my idea is like that. From me personally, man 73,
Did you get a
send me an email with the ideas and they stand a chance that I spread them around, you know?
People, when they pay their taxes, we give them a gift box and inside it's a free gift from the township. It's all of our ordinances and violations.
$100, and you know, $20 gift certificate. I think, you know, along with what you're talking about, I would say that, people aren't gonna go out of their way to try to find this information. It's in our own community interest that people know this information, to the extent that they know this information, we have better compliance. If you don't, if they don't put speed limits signs along the highways and along these roads here, what are people supposed to do? For the sake of, being past time on the personal comments, you could send it to me or send it to Mr. Hobbs. As far as ideas. Not against, you know, anything to try and educate people. It's a lot easier to prevent something from happening than it is to clean up the mess afterwards. Because we're going for $20 here now. How much money have we spent on dealing with this $20 idiotic thing?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to stop for now. Okay, thank you. Yeah, send it in. You never know what's gonna, you know, the flavor of the week changes around here regularly. Come right on up.
Still waiting for that resume.
Anyway, Jason, one of them to what Phil said, the thing that I'm gonna say is that literally sometimes when we cross, the line, it's obvious that one township is a little bit more vigorous in acting on the ordinance violations than others. And not to get into personal situations, but so far in the last year term, I see very little empirical evidence of any ordinance violations being followed up with. That's my observations. And it's based upon. So, answer Cleveland's question, I do have a suggestion. It's gonna be any rule, probably with ordinance violations, well, you probably know. Like ordinance violations, when you look at the total population, it's just a few relatively percentage.
When we quit dealing with, disputes between neighboring disputes over property, it cut it by 80%.
Okay, so it's a small number. But he said, one would be wrong with if a board member,
Are the little lights dying?
what would be wrong?
You're good.
What would be wrong with, if,
Yeah,
if a board member or an ordinance officer, if they saw something in the township, they don't have to go and aggressively act on it. What if they had just a little form letter that said, are you aware of ordinance violation ABC? Staple the attached ordinance violation, mail it to them. I think most people, you're not looking to agitate anybody, but let's make up an example. You see this huge pile of trash. You don't have to go blazing in there. Put them on the cross, but is he aware of, or she, that we have an ordinance violation of some sort? Just as an informative, as a proactive approach, not a policing approach, but a proactive.
An informational approach.
if I,
And that's my only suggestion,
Okay.
and I'll yield to the,
no, I was gonna ask you because I often tell people about you. This is a good thing to me. When you were getting chased around on that sign down here, down the road here.
which time.
Exactly, exactly. But you had been out of the country or something and came back, and in your statement, when you came back, you said, you know, now I'm aware, I think Harry had fined you 8, 9, 10 times, I don't know. But you had said, so I'm back and I'm aware. And then you said, I am personally aware of, I think the number was 11. Other signs in this township that are out of compliance. So, and that's where I start to draw the line a lot. When I drive from my house to here, I bet I go past 30 violations. When I start to single in on one person, my union background says partiality and abuse. I checked with our attorney. I was gonna send out 12 letters to the places that had the biggest dangerous building situation. And he said, don't do it, because if you do that, you're gonna end up chasing all of them down and figure out, and he said this twice before I realized it. Your township probably has a better use for your time and your money. So, but I do appreciate, I thought that was brilliant on your part to say, look at all this other crap. Are you chasing that around like you're chasing me?
Thank you for your comments.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
You did.
um, my only point in summary is, I agree, there's mountains that you want to climb and molehills that you want to ignore. Some of the frustration that may occur in the township is that we should be thinking about the mountains. And one way of potentially doing it is simply to send out a really soft letter. Just, are you aware? It can blow you up. I understand that. But in some cases, it may meet the educate the public philosophy that was voiced here. Thank you.
Informational notice.
Thanks, Tristan.
Thank you much, sir.
Lynette Tomac, resident Lyon, long time. I want to comment at Mr. Robinson's, comment about the, are you done?
Yes, you're right.
Half second.
Just reasonable.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I want to comment on the burning of the leaf piles last year. And that was your fire chief, that still is the fire chief. That came in because I complained about that. Coming in, you're walking in, people are getting leaves all over the place. They didn't even have cones. So that was your fire chief doing that. And no, during the middle of the week. Okay, so look, it wasn't that did that. It was the fire chief. My husband used to do that for 30 years here. Okay, we used to close it down, and then we would sit there and be, that's what you're supposed to do, right? When there's a big fire.
Was this
So
compost site or?
that the big bushy thing that they've got there now that's out of control, who's gonna take care of that?
So the fire chief works for the board, if I'm not mistaken.
You got that right. And I made him aware of it, and he wasn't too pleasant with me. And I went to the board, right? I went to the board and said, this guy, the fire chief,
That's dangerous.
you think?
I mean. That's why it was brought up here.
I'm trying to like back us up. Because that was something that he chose to do. He was arrogant, condescending, you name it. He didn't respect a board member's opinion, which was a no-no. You opened this up to the public in a burning pile on a Wednesday. Yeah. That's your fire chief.
I always thought it was like technically you close it down like when I said, you close it down, you have people right there, have it on call, nobody's allowed near, burn it to the ground.
There's another mail. It's called.
Well, that's one person.
That's why it's just there.
Yeah.
All right, well, hang on, we gotta
Yeah.
try and stay, if you got something to say, go ahead. Come on, come on up. It's gonna get chipped, but I can tell you it was not my first choice.
He was burning.
I have burned lots of things for the DNR and the Forest Service. You burn it with snow on the ground, the right day, the right time, and you're fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not what's gonna happen. It's gonna get chipped.
I'm just curious though, so when you're burning, the wind's blowing either way. Those poor people down at the lake are just gonna get buried, or it's gonna go across the highway when.
Not in the winter.
Causing like.
Winter,
But it doesn't smoke in the winter,
Well, the two complaints were
it's still gonna smoke,
because most of the across the highway. Alright.
I don't know.
I can tell you that if you
Would you ship it, then we have to be,
if you wanted to burn it, you can burn it correctly and there's not a lot of smoke.
yeah, no,
Anyway, now that's happening.
and it's, and.
What else do we have?
It's just the leaf pile, just, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but, supposedly, we'll see. In the spring, we have somebody that is coming to take them all at no cost, zero. Now, we'll see,
That's,
how that goes.
that switch to spring.
Yeah, when did that happen?
Well, spring,
No.
winter,
I'll believe it when I see it.
and, so I hate to publicize it.
Yeah.
It was no.
I make the motion, we adjourn.
All right, thank you for coming and I will make, I'll second that motion.
Hey,
Any discussion on it? Okay, all those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, oppose the same. Okay, we are done at, what time you got?
7:04.
oh, come on, 7:04. 5:30.